Hello, I am Jean-Louis Perrier. Nice to be with you today. I am the head of program for Africa Cybersecurity Resource Center, ACRC, and I hope you can hear me well. We will speak today about cyber resilience So we will speak briefly about us, some element of context of cybersecurity and cyber resilience in Africa. What could we do to, for the development of cyber resilience, and then outlooks. ACRC, Africa Cybersecurity Resource Center for Financial Inclusion, is a sustainable organization that is built for a long-term response to cyber resilience challenges. It is a regional and sectoral member-driven community. Let me change. So the African, because I hear me while I am speaking, it is a bit uncomfortable. Sorry for that. Maybe the technical team can find a solution to reduce this. I hope you can hear me well. So the idea is to build a collaborative network supporting and strengthening local or regional initiatives. And ACRC is an independent and not-for-profit public-private partnership consortium involving large partners like Thales Luxembourg, the cybersecurity. Okay, so it seems that. Okay, I am starting again, but I hear myself speaking. It is a bit difficult. Sorry for that. So ACRC is funding by the Africa Digital Financial Inclusion Facility, which is hosted by the African Development Bank. And the idea is to build a network of regional hubs. We have started with the first hub in Senegal. We have three main focus, which are capacity building, information sharing, and strategic and regulatory advisory services. All these three elements are, of course, tightly interconnected, and we will see this later in the presentation. Just a word about the ADFI, Africa Digital Financial Inclusion Facility. It is a large fund that is funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Government of Luxembourg, Agence Française de Développement, Women Entrepreneurs Finance Initiative, Ministry of Finance of India, and Ministry of Economy and Finance of thank you for them for supporting us. Few elements about the context. What we see in this graphic on the right is since 2008 to 2024, we have the size and the number of the major incidents worldwide. And of course, we see that there is both a growth in frequency and severity. We see in the latest incidents data from hundreds of thousands, hundreds of millions of people are stolen by the hackers. And we imagine when we see some of these bodies that they have already, like we see Facebook, we see Microsoft, we see the Shanghai police. These guys have a lot of cybersecurity components, of course, to try to protect their infrastructure. So it is not so easy. What we see is that we are facing malicious actors, international criminal networks or organizations who have very elaborated value chains They share components, they share knowledge, they share also tools, mostly on the dark web. So this is a change of criminality compared to what we saw a few years ago. We see also the development of supply chain attacks, which are among the most dangerous, where a compromised component in one of the partners in the network will then spread to tens or hundreds or even thousands of partners, and this has the ability to absolutely block any sector. So we can say that systemic incidents are predictable and really likely to jeopardize financial stability. We can also learn from the past and understand that approaches that are based on compliance with standard, to remember the box approach, ISO 27001, PCI-DSS, and so on, or technology. We see many organizations feel safe because they have bought a large number of different software and hardwares. Actually, these approaches show their limitations very, very clearly. We will see in the next few slides that the African financial sector is exposed absolutely to the same cyber attacks as the other continents, but there are some elements of fragility that make it more vulnerable to these attacks. So overall, we understand that we really have to change our approach to cyber security and set it at a really strategic level. I will not go in all these details that we do analyze incidents based on open source intelligence, incidents throughout Africa. And we see that in the last 2 or 3 years, many central banks, development banks, including Development of Seychelles, Development Bank of Southern Africa, most of the large or local bank networks have been hit. Insurance companies, microfinance company, including we can find it funny, but probably it was not so funny for them. The Kenya National Police SACCO. Um, Fintech, we see a large number of big hits in fintech. Here we have listed some interesting cases in Nigeria, but there has been also in the other part of the continent, and telecommunication network, which are very critical to financial inclusion, have also suffered heavily in the last 2 or 3 years. So we will not go into all these details because this will take half a day or a full day to go on, but let's focus on what threats are affecting uh, um, the financial. Of course, we have all the classical threats, the denial of services, internal threats, ransomware, phishing and social engineering, uh, traditional data breaches through hacking servers or compromising endpoints. But the development of digital financial services brings also a wealth of new threats. We have API vulnerabilities. More and more open banking systems or applications connected between different partners are connected to API, and this also brings a number of issues. We have more and more cloud hosting, and contrarily to what cloud provider tend to say, um, being hosted in the cloud does not necessarily mean that you cannot have a very strong look at how your infrastructure how your data are protected. We have third-party risk, as I explained before, with supply chain attacks. Of course, we have many mobile application threats we will see in a minute. Um, and we have risk linked to cryptocurrency, cryptojacking, central bank digital currency. They have not been developed as it was expected a few years ago, but they also bring a great number of issues, and also instant payment for a simple reason that all the systems are connected online, and once the money is gone, if it is a fraud or like, it is very difficult to recover this money. Uh, so we have really additional risk linked to the financial services, and at the same time, many of the new market entrants, fintechs, electronic money provider, maybe don't have the long history of being supervised, working with regulators and supervisors, so they may be also more fragile in this way. So with this growing dependency on IT, expanding attack surface, more and more advanced technology, sensitive financial data, which are, of course, a strong target for hackers, very sophisticated new threats, APT, 0 days, and everything that is related to artificial intelligence brings these new uh, threats to a new level. So we really have to adapt the regulatory framework. We have to improve capacity, both at the regulators and supervisors and financial institution side, and altogether, policymakers and financial institutions, we really have to work in this new dimension of cyber resilience. Let's see just a few interesting figures, recent figures. In Africa, about 30% of offenses reported to law enforcement are linked to cybercrime in West and East Africa. That means that this law enforcement is uh, heavily involved in cybercrime. Population is also severely hit by this. Application security, the University of Luxembourg has made a research few months ago. They have researched the 60 mobile money applications that are operated by 160 banks in West Africa Monetary Union. And actually, they have found that 100% of these mobile money app contain critical vulnerabilities. That means that almost any stupid can breach the application quite easily. Do you see my slides? I am told that the slides are not moving. Let me come back. Let me come back to here. And find the share again. Can you see now the share? In average, these 60 mobile money application also contain an average of 24 critical vulnerabilities. So it is not one. If you succeed in fixing one of these vulnerabilities, there are still 23 to still making the system open to hackers. So this is really a new thing that has to be dealt very carefully. Ransomware, um, in average, 80 or 90% of victims of ransomware pay a ransom, which is not so good because if it is 80 or 90%, actually you have almost 50% that do not recover their data, so they have paid but not get the service back. And also, as the attackers have understood that you are willing to pay, in 80% of cases of victims that have paid a ransom, they will be attacked again in the next few months. So we have also to be more cautious about, besides the losses, the ransomware can also be an ongoing threat to any institution. Um, AI already today, we have just had generative AI used in the last few years, but 80% of ransomware attacks use AI tools to facilitate the so I will not go through a very large presentation of threats with or thanks to or to against AI system, which is a matter in itself. But already you can be sure that the hackers are taking advantage of any opportunities that will facilitate their business because they are business. They have return on investment, so they try to optimize their operation. If we look at some losses data, just last year, 2024, Kenyan banks have suffered losses for about 12 million US dollars, which is not a small amount, and it is growing. Uh, For the whole continent, losses are expected. It is more a ballpark figure because no real data are available, which is an issue in itself. But the losses are estimated to be around $4 billion a year, and the trend is plus 24% per year, which is growing. Uh, If we look also in terms of business opportunities, there's been a very large case. It was almost 2 years ago in Kenya, where more than 5,000 services have been disrupted for a week or so in Kenya after an attack on the citizen portal. So this shows that really the severity of the incident is steadily growing, and we can expect very bad things in the next few years. The African financial sector, it is something about around 4,000 financial institutions, 42 central banks, um, 250 or maybe now 300 million fragile consumer or customers. Um, And policymakers or chief risk officer are really now putting cyber risk as one of the top risks. For the good reason we have seen, we are facing global threats with a very strong financial motivation, a very strong presence of organized crime, more than half of cases. We have 70% of cases that are external. That means that we still 30 or 40% of cases where there is insiders that have been participating to the to and also overall the containment, the detection to containment time is like 250, 280 days, depending on the year. That means that in this time, the hacker can do put anything in your system. taking all the data, correcting this data, um, uh, encrypting, anything. We have very limited cyber resources on the continent to face these cases. It is estimated that there are 10,000 experts in Africa now, and estimates say that there should be 300,000. So we have a big gap in building this capacity, both at the initial training in masters of science, uh, PhD for the more advanced, but we really need to increase these figures. From memory, in the US, we have something like 700,000 experts plus 300,000 open positions. That means also that many African experts have an opportunity to do more advanced studies, of course. In terms of funding, the whole continent, whatever the sector, is spending something like $2 billion a year. And this is the cybersecurity spending of the four top US banks. So we see the disproportion between this spending. It means that we have maybe to spend more, but also to be smarter when we spend. We cannot expect a lot of support from countries, governments. Only a handful have a national cybersecurity agency. Another 10 or 15 have a national cybersecurity strategy. Also around 14, 15 have a national incident response team. So basically, these guys are well involved in government crisis. We have seen still a very big one in Senegal in the last week, and they don't have a lot of bandwidth to give to the financial sector, including, of course, financial inclusion institutions. And which is a bit specific to the continent. Today, we have very few market data on losses, on structures, and very limited coordination. How can we develop this approach of cyber resilience? So the idea is we have to develop new guidelines in a way in light of these risks and losses. So I will not go back too much in detail in the type of losses. Of course, financial losses, service service interruption. I, I, going back is